Hey, wonderful people, a pleasant evening to you. So, beauties, I needed to do a research on, what is the figure, the percentage of domestic violence among women as well as among men. And, it said reported cases in 2022. For women, over 6,200 women reported domestic violence incidents to the Jamaica Constabulary Forces Domestic Violence Intervention Center in 2022. Men, approximately 2,500 reported domestic violence cases to the Domestic Violence Intervention Centers, DVIC, during the same period. And it really suggests that women are more likely to report domestic violence incidents than men. But the figure shows that both sexes have underreported. In other words, it's not, there are more people who are victimized on both sexes, both the women and the men. Lifetime prevalence. It says a national survey revealed that 27.8% of women in Jamaica have experienced intimate partner physical, and or sexual violence in their lifetime. So you will have more women being physically and sexually abused than the other way around, even though on both sexes they're underreported. But women are likely, men, generally they're physically stronger than women, 90% of the times. You will have the exceptions to the rules, like in anything. While specific lifetime prevalence data for men is limited, the reported cases in 2022 indicate that a significant number of men also experience domestic violence. And I'm coming up to what their domestic violence is shortly. But before, it says perpetration of violence. So women, a study found that 41.1% of ever partnered women admitted to perpetrating intimate partner violence, primarily verbal abuse. They say women's mouth is their strength. So I'm thinking it's even a little bit higher. Women will just even tote the man, and she will tell him all manner of things with her mouth. Men, similarly, although that one is 41.5, 40.1% of ever partnered men reported perpetrating intimate partner violence with jealousy. Oh God, you don't want to face a man's jealousy. The Bible says nothing can cool a man's jealousy. Oh my God. And financial problems being common triggers. There has been an increase in men reporting domestic violence, indicating a growing recognition of the issue among male victims. However, underreporting remains a concern for both genders due to factors like stigma and fear of not being taken seriously. It is a sad state of affairs. The reality is that both genders or both sexes suffer greatly and gravely where domestic violence is concerned. The problem, though, is that women seem to be victimized more because you find that it goes to their demise ultimately. So their lives end up snuffed out because the body cannot actually handle the physical abuse, the constant battering and beating, and then the sexual molestation and whatnot. So what ends up happening is that women tend to be more victimized, even though on both genders, while the men may have the higher figure of the underreporting. Let us say they all reported. We're going to hypothetically say they all decided to report it. If all the women decide to report it, they still would supersede. There would be no comparison. It would be like a Usain Bolt and a non-runner in a race in terms of violence, because the reality is that because of the power and the nature of the man, the testosterone in the man, the physical abuse leads to the demise of the woman, where her life is actually taken away through physical abuse. When you find men dying, generally it's sickness, apart from car accidents and murder, and so on. You find that it's sicknesses and diseases, but not on the woman's physical beating, you know. It's generally that. The reality is that we need to reach a point where this madness cease. There are too many broken people attracting broken people. There are too many of that, and the world has gone wacky and wild, and people refuse to do. It's not just doing introspection, because you can do all of that. Do some introspection and retrospection and inflections and I mean not inflections, but do all of the shuns that would require change. It is just but a mere beginning. It's like it's the beginner's stage of creating transformation. You have to seek help, divine intervention, human intervention, and you have to be very strident and purposeful in getting that help, or you will continue to be abused or to be an abuser. You will continue to be abused or to be an abuser. And you have to make that concerted effort and decision to say, I am going to seek help. This is crazy. We see a number of women dying. Women are, you know, if you were to make the comparison with black women and other women, black women in particular have been the most victimized race. Let's just use it for lack of a better word, of all the races. Victimized in terms of abuse, predominantly physical and sexual. Although for me, the physical rarely takes in. The sex was a physical act, even though it psychologically will affect the woman. Both acts will psychologically and emotionally and mentally deteriorate the woman. And you have women vis-a-vis the women who verbally abuse the men, and it's not something that I support. You have one or two, those are the exceptions to the rule, who will physically assault the man. And we're now living in a day when the men are crying out and they feel as though they're not being heard. And there are so many reasons for that. You know, one of the things we have to tell people, because it's not about what I desire, what I want, it's about what will happen. You know, the world will make room for what they consider and deem important. So, for example, if you look on the books, who falls under the vulnerable groups? Who falls under women, children, you know, the disenfranchised in terms of like people who are physically and mentally challenged, you know, handicaps and whatnot, autistic people and, you know, those different deficiencies. Those are the people who will fall under vulnerable groups, not the men per se, unless you are an elderly man or you're an invalid or you're, you know, some kind of illness where it's debilitating. Outside of those parameters, you will not fall under the vulnerable groups. Therefore, you will not necessarily be shown the same grace and mercy, unfortunately, as the woman. Unfortunately, let me take it further, men. You will not be given the same voice as the woman would be given, or the child would be given, because women are considered the weaker vessels. Known, it is obvious. That is not something that we get out of thin air. Men are created to be providers and protectors, security men. So it's like they're saying you can fend for yourself. You have to tough it out. And that's part and parcel while the girl had said that he had to manage his stress, you know, him have to hold up his stress. Something like that, she said. You know, which that's another topic, you know. But with so we have to work with the tools that we're given as men and women, because there are some things that are to the disadvantage of the woman, which is to the advantage of the man. There's some things that are like that, you know, and we have to work with the tools, that the deck of cards that we're given, unfortunately, because I want us to be very realistic. We can talk until we're blue. Some things will just remain the same until God comes. So you have to make your calling and election sure. Know what it is that you want, and if it is that you want better, do better. Seek help so that you no longer are abused or be an abuser. Guys, you know what to do. Read TikTok and YouTube. Subscribe and give me one of those lions. Thank you.